Got one dollar right here. I don't even know where the flags are. You know, James, I don't know. I don't know. They have the five states. We don't know how to do it.
I don't know if that's the same.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sealaska's first Zoom webinar. We're happy to have you here today. I'd like to introduce Anthony Milat, Sealaska's President and CEO. Anthony?
Thank you, Dixie. Hope everybody can hear me all right. Want to say Guna Chish, how and doik some news for everybody joining us today. I'd like to welcome you to the first in a series of Zoom sessions on issues that our shareholders care about. My name is Anthony Milat, President and CEO of Sealaska. Ganak Yuchat Duasak, Tagwedi Ayachat, Kwashkakwan Yeti Ayachat, Koyukon-Athabascan Dutch Chan Ayachat. The topic that we will be kicking off these sessions with is one that is dear to us, Sealaska's priority towards working with our shareholders and our people to achieve their educational and career success. We strongly believe that the success of our shareholders, of our people, will benefit our communities, will lead to community success. The greater success that our shareholders achieve will lead to greater leadership within our communities. And I'll have a time later in the session to be able to talk with you through some of the strategic vision and the ways that Sealaska is thinking about helping our shareholders in their educational and career success. Today, we are highlighting Martin Sensmeier, not because of the success he has achieved, but because of how he has achieved that success. Martin has a strong core identity of who he is as a Tlingit and Koyukon-Athabascan. He has built on that core identity, the strength of that core identity, through lifelong learning and a dedication to strengthening himself. We believe that Martin's ability to work hard, achieve success, fail, but keep going, so closely ties to how so much of us can continue to achieve the career success we are looking for. I'm not only introducing Martin today, but I'm going to be introducing Sealaska's board chair, Joe Nelson, who will be having a conversation with how Martin's career path, his ability to build on his strengths, ties to Sealaska's vision of helping our people achieve their full potential. Welcome, Joe and Martin. I look forward to your conversation. Guna Cheesh.
Thank you, Anthony. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know it's a busy time. There's lots happening, but all of you are choosing to be with us right now. And Martin for Zooming. I'll do a brief intro myself, then I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll have a conversation. And a little wise, about 50 minutes or so here, we'll open it up, and we're welcoming questions from the participants here that'll come through the chat. So thank you for joining, everybody. My Tlingit name is Kachaku. I'm a brown bear from Yakutat, and happen to have a fellow brown bear tuning in here with us. And just excited to connect, excited to have a conversation, knowing we're hunkering down and finding new ways to engage and keep life moving for us, but also grounding it in this place, in this time. But Martin, if you don't mind, just a brief introduction of yourself. And then my first question, I know we're going to talk about opportunities and careers and pathways and things, but you know, we're on the eve of Veterans Day. So an introduction of yourself, but then maybe you can speak to just what Veterans Day means to you as a person. And then we have Veterans Day tomorrow happens to be the drop of a show that we're all looking forward to seeing. And I'm sure many of us will tune in to that. But just a comment, just a little background on yourself, and then a comment on Veterans Day before we dive into the rest of the program.
My name is Coach Jock. I'm from Yakutat, brown bear. Yeah, I just, you know, a little bit about me. I'm from Yakutat. I grew up there, graduated high school there, went to UAA, and later moved to LA, and now I'm in Arizona, working on movies and TV shows. But yeah, you know, Veterans Day to me, I always think of my parents. My dad was in Vietnam, did 2 tours in Vietnam. You know, and he was in the Army National Guard when I was growing up. And so, and his dad and my mom's dad were both in World War II. So, um, I it's close to me because I come from a military family, and I think about our troops. Um, that's something that is very dear to my heart. So, yeah, my show, The Liberator, is a World War II series. But it's just an honor to be able to help tell those stories. Um, and Yeah, it's something I take very serious, and I've worked very hard to get to the level of filmmaking that I'm at, and to be able to get roles where I get to portray soldiers. Those are important stories, and they need to be shared. And it's just a big honor. You take it. Uh, you know, it's a humbling experience to say the least.
Well, we know we serve at a higher rate than any other ethnic group, Alaska Natives, and we just wanted to have this brief moment here to reflect and thank our veterans, and we do that in most of our doings, and we hold them up. And sometimes folks might think of them in a generational thing, that was the past, but we know we still continue to serve at a very high rate, and a lot of us have family members in the armed services now, and just want to thank them and think about them for a moment as we move. One other thing I need to note, just we grew up together, but I'm a little bit ahead of you, so it was more with your brother Chris was my bro, as you know, and then made me think of that, reflect on that. If it was within reach, I'd grab it, but it's upstairs. My Dodger cap. I also had my tour down there in LA, and it is an LA moment with this pandemic, and then these World Series and the NBA. So just a bro hug across the Zoom for our athletes there. But to kick this off, I think it all goes back to a lot of the folks in the villages. We all have different upbringings, but a lot of us we all have roots in the villages. And there, those early years, you've got big dreams, or we all do. And I think that the world's curious about you, or on that early stage, kind of when did this become a thing? This idea that you were going to become a thing in this way, as far as movies, and I found my way to LA, but I ended up going to college and going that route, and becoming a lawyer before I moved back. Right now I'm in Tlingit country in our capital city, and we thank the Yukon for hosting the capital city here and the headquarters for Sealaska. But your early years, did you always know that you had an itch to scratch here with acting? What was that? Was that a thing planted early, tied to the village, or how'd that start?
Yeah, I think so. I started doing, when I was in fourth grade, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, I was doing all the plays. And we got to do some acting early on, and we would rehearse those plays for like 4 months, and then we get to do them in front of the town. So I think we did Robin Hood and Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, plays like that. But that kind of, growing up with my brother, as you know, the guy loves movies, right? So going over to his place to watch movies was kind of he'll roll it out for you. He's got the best TV, the best, stereo sound equipment, the best, and then it's like a mini movie theater. And so, it was a part of I was a part of I felt like I was a part of the movie culture growing up. And we just loved movies so much, and Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. I had a big imagination. I always felt like movies were real, and so I would see everything kind of like a movie. Or even when I put headphones in and listen to music, I'd be like, oh man, it's like a soundtrack, to my life. And and kind of had this just a vision of it all the time. Thought about it in school a lot, daydreaming about it. But I never thought it would be a thing or something that I could actually pursue, I didn't even think that was a possibility. And but I started getting like the idea about it, because when I was in college at UAA, I would go online on the internet, and to go on the internet, then you had to go to like the computer lab, and I would look and I would find like these these websites where you could submit your picture, and you could submit bio for to be considered for an extra in or a stuntman or something like that in a movie. And they would have different movies on these websites, and I would look at them all the time, and I'd daydream like, oh man, I just got to get there and get on this movie set and be an extra or stuntman, and eventually I kind of did, but before that, I went to LA. Lakers, man, like LA Dodgers, Lakers. When I started working in the oil rigs up in the North Slope, my first paycheck, I bought a plane ticket and a couple of Lakers tickets, and went and I flew to LA to watch a game, and I just kind of kept going back to LA because I could, that's my
So
job
were
before.
you actually welding? I mean, you weren't just a laborer, right? You were also, you were,
Well, that's what.
yeah.
Yeah, I went to school. I went to UAA and that was I studied welding technology there, uh, applied science and welding technology, and then I got certified, and and um and so after UAA, I was welding in a shop in Anchorage, and I did that for a couple of years before I started working on the oil rigs, and then I started working on the rigs, and I wasn't welding on the rigs. I was just roughnecking up there, and working. Um, as a rig hand, and but I started making like good money, so I travel everywhere I wanted, and LA was kind of the place where I was daydreaming about LA, and just the movies and stuff. It's like just tripped me out when I first got to go to LA, because I was just attracted to the idea of that movies were made there, and like I'm crazy about movies, so I thought growing up, I was just always crazy about movies. I'm still crazy about movies, but to think that I would end up working on them, that kind of just like, the possibility came to me the first time I went to an acting class in LA. I went to an acting class with a friend, and I was working with, in class, and I got to watch these guys do class work. And one of the guys was on a Disney show, and then another person was on another show. And I was like, okay, well, I'm doing the same thing as they are, and that's kind of where the seed was planted.
So how about this connection to home? We're a couple kids from the village, and then in LA, that transition is not for everybody, but
Yeah.
you seem to maintain the connection. And as you know, your success isn't just your success. You're part of a collective group here, and your success is all of our success. And
Mm.
and you're taking time to come back home all the time and connect. So how does that work in your daily routine and your life and your work? Just being the Tlingit person you are, the Athabascan person that you are,
Hmm.
in front of in front of the cameras. Is it? Just talk about that a little bit, I guess, because there's other generations of Native actors from the 70s and the 80s, and I'm just always there's not enough, I guess. There's not enough of us in all the different realms.
Yeah.
So there's room for plenty to come in. And is it a value add, or is it a disadvantage, to be a kid from the village? Is it a strength, or is it a challenge?
I think it's never going to be a disadvantage, because it's like that's the power place for me. I think about everything that I'm able to accomplish is it comes out of what I learned there. That's hard work ethic. I started working jobs when I was like 12 years old in Yakutat. So, um, and working at the cannery to working, log ships, and just growing up, never not having a job or being busy in school, um, and kind of taking that work ethic, and you get it's the reward system, right? You get a good job and you make good money and you can buy cool stuff, and that's kind of how we uh, I never thought I would go to school for 4 years after school. So pursuing an academic education seemed more unrealistic to me than even what I'm doing now, because that's just how my mind works, and that's kind of how a lot of kids' minds work, but they don't discover art, they don't discover other things, that jobs where they could use their hands, like there's something, you got to try new things to figure out what works for you. And I think, if you pick one thing and you think you're going to know what that is when you're 16 or 17 and then run with that, you might end up disappointed or not doing it even. So I think just working hard, whatever you're doing, leads to the next opportunity that is going to be something that you could try. But yeah, that's kind of like being from home. I've never looked at it as a disadvantage, because I can adapt wherever I'm at, and and that's the main thing is, there's good people everywhere you go, and there's the things that you like. A lot of times you hear people that say, oh, I want to get out of this village because I need to get away from this, or I want to get away from home because I want to get away from this type of thing. But like whatever you're trying to run away from in the village is going to be wherever you're at. You're going to find that it's not something that you can't just run away from whatever the village is, thinking that all your problems are identified there. Like that, whatever they are, they're going to exist everywhere else.
So Martin, remind me, in Magnificent Seven,
yeah.
What I'm trying to remember. You had a few phrases there.
Yeah.
It wasn't about Tlingits, but you sprinkled some things in there, and I think we're curious about your other roles. And as Alaska Natives, we're always balancing, and trying to be whole people, trying to be us, and as acting. How do you be authentic, and then just incorporate the culture into what you're doing, I guess. Maybe you could remind us the Magnificent Seven. I remember there was a couple moments there when there was a roar in the crowd for people who knew what you were saying, and then we're going to be squeezing you for more of these tips on what's coming down the pike on your shows.
Okay. Yeah. To be authentic, I think you have to like just acknowledge all the different parts of being human. Like a lot of times everybody sees the good part of us, but I think for me, where like I've gone through some really tough times getting to where I'm at. I've gone through some, and I still go through hard times, and a lot of sacrifices, and a lot of downfalls and failures. And those times when you're failing, you feel insecure, and your sense of self-worth feels like it's not a lot, things like that I've gone through to get to where I'm at now, are the same things that everybody goes through no matter what you do. And I think that working with some wellness groups and working with people that are in that's their thing, is wellness, and spiritual wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness. I think addressing certain parts of facing the things that we don't want to face, the uncomfortable things, having uncomfortable conversations with our communities, or with our people, or with ourselves, first and foremost, looking at the things that I don't like about myself, and then addressing that, things like that, because we all have our fears, doubts, and insecurities, and we all have those moments where we feel scared to be vulnerable and around other people, but whatever you're going through, you got to address it and talk to somebody about it if you're not going to be able to figure it out on your own. And I think that's where, me being authentic to myself is acknowledging that, because a lot of times, growing up in a village in the 80s and 90s, you're told to be tough, and not cry, and so that's how I grew up, and now I realize, like, oh man, you gotta get that, whatever you're dealing with something, you got to get that out. You got to talk to somebody about it. I think that's what a lot of our youth are dealing with, is they don't know that they can talk about things. They don't know that they can have conversations and be vulnerable to people that are older than them and care about them, so for us as a community, I think that's one of the things that we will always continuously need to work on doing is building a safe place for youth to go to where they can talk to elders and talk to people about the things that they're dealing with at home or they're dealing with themselves. And then we can shape them into the people that don't carry fear of dealing with those things that need to be addressed, you know. But if we never address those things, you know, whatever we don't address is going to be dealt with by the next generation or carried by them. So that's one of the things I think about all the time, you know.
What would the current Martin say to the 9th grade, 10th grade year old Martin? Are there things that you would tell yourself to, you know, lessons learned or advice to the young people that are watching now potentially and looking for an avenue and some inspiration or mentorship to go ahead and break into this it's a tough industry.
Yeah. Well, I think all industries are tough, you know, every industry is tough, no matter what you want to do. So I think that, you know, don't look at something and say that's too big, you know, or that's too hard, because you just put your head down and go to work and you can chip away at it, you know, because nothing happens overnight. And so to my younger self, what would I say? I mean, don't just believe in yourself. That's really it, you know, because nobody else is going to believe in you for you better than you can believe in yourself. And that's the biggest thing is when nobody does believe in you, then you have to believe in yourself, you know, and you know, whether that means accomplishing a simple small goal or a big one. And you know, I put timelines on certain goals, you know, like if I can't accomplish this in 5 years, then, you know, then I'm going to change it up, you know, like I had a deadline with acting. I've been pursuing it for so long. And I told myself when I was 28, if I don't book any major roles by the time I'm 30, then I'm done because I got to go back home and be more Tlingit, you know, like I'm not fishing, I'm not hunting, I'm not doing any of the things that I did when I was growing up. I'm not, you know, like that's the thing that when I left home and I was looking at other people who had gotten out of the village and they talked bad about the village, you know, like it is a place they needed to escape from. And so I felt that way for whatever reason, because my dreams weren't there, you know, but then now I look back and I'm like, no, like the dreams were built in. You know, when I go home, I get to live the dream. I get to go fishing. I get to go hunting. I get to go camping. I get to go out on the boat. I get to do all of these things, you know, that I don't get to do now. And so the dream is built in, you know, it's already there. There's nothing better than that. The best thing you could do, I think, is to get out of there for a little bit and get an education, go experience some life, visit some other places that make you appreciate being at home. Because one of the things about traveling is it gives you a worldly view, you know, and that, for me, when I travel around other places around the world, I've been all over the world and I see different cultures and different people, interact with different people. It just makes me appreciate being from where I'm from all that much more. And I realize like, oh yeah, man, these are all the things that are at home that I want to get back to one day. But now I'm kind of like here on my canoe journey, right? This is where I'm at and right now. And so yeah, that's, you know.
So yeah, I think in the lead up to this or the promo, there was a mention of 3 things. Your 3 things. Do you mind a little time? What are your 3 things? Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, yeah, the 3 things. You know, right now for me, it's work and I mean, well, family first. You know, my family and work and um, um, I would say, you know, usually it's like doing some community service, you know, like working with Native Wellness Institute and stuff. We do that a couple of times a year, but this year I'm not done as much because of the pandemic. So right now, the third thing is just kind of trying to stay safe and stay motivated, stay busy. I have a routine. As an artist, you have to have your own routine and you have to like, you know, I make my own hours and I make my own routine. So I got to get everything done by the time it's dinner time. So I'm not working, you know, because I'm still like, I still, even though I'm at home, I'm still like busy working for several hours a day that, I still need to make time for my family and everything. So, um,
So it's
and then when I travel, like I got a movie coming up and I'm going to be gone for a few weeks, and that's tough on my family and that's tough on me because I miss them. And, it's a big sacrifice that comes with, getting work, and they don't always get to go with me. Um, but that comes with the territory. So,
so the three things are not necessarily a fixed three things. That's a formula for
no,
everything. It's more the
they
idea
flex.
to just have focus.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly. You have to allow room for things to change and fluctuate. But if you have like three things that are you got to do every day, then it gives you a sense of the purpose, and like you feel like you're accomplishing something, like in terms of a goal. Even fitness for me, like if I make sure I get my workouts in a certain number of workouts a week, I feel like I'm making progress. And even if it's just really I'm maintaining, you know but I feel good, I feel strong, and I feel sharp. um, but also, it's good for my mental health. you know um, I get when I get stagnant or still, then I realize like my mental health suffers from that because I don't feel as good physically. Just in terms of like I have, old injuries that flare up when I'm not in shape, things like that, inflammation, or old, old injuries from basketball and stuff. And so I just got to stretch every day and do a little bit of exercise, and I feel great.
so
But
shift
that's
to
kind of like a staple. Yeah, that's the kind of a staple that keeps everything going. That keeps the vehicle, running.
shift to the there's the physical and then the mental. What are you
They're
know
connected.
what's Martin scared of? What brings you fear or anxiety? Do you have any fears or
Yeah, I mean, like everybody else, not succeeding and not being able to provide. That's the main thing. It's like I think that's an inherent fear that has been with us since the beginning of time. It's something that if you have to fear is there as a reminder to get your butt in gear. And I think it started with the fear of starving to death. It means you got to go hunt, you got to go eat. To survive and to thrive. And so in the proverbial idea of that today is having a job that you can put food on the table with and pay rent and things like that. So for me, like, yeah, the fear of not being able to provide for my family.
what are
um
your two workouts, physical and mental? What's your go-to physical workout and what's your go-to mental workout when you're trying to work the
well,
different things?
usually my go-to physical workout is basketball, but we can't play basketball right now because I'm trying to be safe. But I like to, I'll lift weights, or I'll do, like lately I've been doing push-ups and pull-ups, and that's about it. Running, I like running. Um, and But the mental stuff, kind of, just hang out with my family, and also, take some, I like to, like that's the going for a bike ride or going for a jog or something that clears my mind. Um, Going for a drive sometimes if I feel lazy, I'll go for a drive. And um, but yeah, those two, the mental and physical are connected. Your brain is a part of your body. So when you're exercising, you release endorphins, and you just feel good. If you have stress or something that's on your mind and you can't get it off, if you exercise, it doesn't even have to be hard exercise. You go for a long, hard walk, or a jog or something, even just sweat, just move. Our bodies are made to do that. So if you have a body, you're an athlete. And I think that, ancestrally, we did so much, Tlingit, especially as Tlingit, coastal people, we had things that we did that were very physical, that were about the mental fortitude, soaking in the cold water, taking ice baths. Imagine the physical part of that, takes a lot of discipline, but the mental part of it is about mental strength. So that's something that, as Tlingit people, we've always had certain rituals set aside for our mental and physical well-being. And I think that, today, wherever you're at, you have to have some kind of hybridized form of that, you know.
What kind of sleep schedule and diet do you have? Those are also just key elements.
I try to get 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep, just because of, you know, exercise. Sometimes, you know, like you have to recover. But as far as the diet goes, I'm not super strict as I used to be. I used to be really, really strict and eat only certain things, but I just try to eat in good moderation. You know, I try not to overeat. I'll you know, only we'll make dinner, and just make enough for us to eat, and not have enough for, like, if there's enough for leftovers, and it'll be enough for like one meal the next day or something. Try not to overdo it, you know, because you cook a bunch, then you're gonna have a bunch of food, and then you feel, you know, like, I don't want to waste any of it. I'll eat more. So I try not to overeat. Um, and that's the main thing. And try to not do too much sugary stuff. Eat a lot of natural foods, but yeah, I got to eat healthy foods because I'm exercising a lot. So I noticed that, you know, my body responds to um, certain foods a lot better. Healthier foods, I feel a lot better. Like mental clarity. I used to eat whatever I wanted, and you know, and I would get like tired or brain fog. You know, feel real tired and groggy after. Now I don't feel like that. So that's kind of my motivation.
Let's, you know, you started, you got a new addition to your family, so congratulations there.
Thank you.
That leads me to, you know, we talked a little bit about somebody in your life, your older brother, but who are the females in your life that are kind of the main influencers?
Oh, my mom and my sisters and my partner, my wife. Definitely, they're all amazing women. Yeah, and my nieces too. They're turning into young, amazing women. Um, but yeah, just being surrounded by, you know, strong women definitely helped shape who I am too. You know, they do a lot. You know, seeing them do so much, um, you kind of, that's a motivating factor for me too, because, you know, there's nobody, you know, that to me that just does, you know, they're just amazing females. You know.
I'm weaving in questions on occasion that are coming through. And one of them is, what's lessons you've learned from your parents?
Um, Hard work, you know, and honesty, you know, and that was a big one for my dad. Discipline, um, and showing up on time, you know, things like that. That you know, like my dad would wake me up early in the morning on school days when I was young, um, and just you know, about keeping your word and stuff like that. You know, good values, having good values and following them. You know, and that's pretty much like the main thing I think about when I try to live through, like, let my culture, um, for my, how do I express my culture to other people, that wherever I go, that's just kind of like I live by my values, you know. And those are universal. People understand that, you know, so that it's not something that, um, I guess when you say like my culture defines me, it's not about wearing a regalia or having the nicest beadwork or anything like that, or jewelry or anything like that. It's how I treat people and how I carry myself and how I, you know, my level of professionalism with work and everything, and my responsibilities at home, you know, and making sure everybody's taken care of and things like that. So that's kind of me to be living, you know, living up to my culture.
Learning, let's shift, because there's highs and lows and peaks and valleys in life, and you can imagine, you know, middle school and then transitions out of high school and then your adult life. These transitions create anxiety, and what you know, you mentioned earlier this, being vulnerable. You know, I think that's a key thing to spend a little more time talking about, as far as paradigm shifts and pivots, because a lot of folks aren't able to be vulnerable. So if they're not vulnerable,
Yeah.
able to manage that, then it manifests in bad behavior and bad actions.
Yeah.
You know, was there certain things that in your life that helped you shift, or was it just kind of always with you to be able to be
Mm,
vulnerable and manage your down moments?
no, I think, you know, kind of, I'm not sure what happened. Maybe working on the oil rigs, um, and then leaving that. And I think definitely Native Wellness Institute, working with them, seeing other people kind of talk about their own stuff that I also identified with, and hearing about how that helped them just to talk about it. Um, yeah, because like it's village, small town fishermen are tough, and like you said, like it, not talking about um, not talking about those things can manifest itself in something negative, or it can be something that just you know they don't ever share, or just closed off, and it's communicating is so good when you use words and just express how you feel, and be honest, because everybody just wants to feel good at the end of the day. And and if you love somebody, I think that not sharing how you feel, and even people that they might express their love through anger, that's a form of love. It's and love and hate come from the same place. They're not, hate is not the opposite of love, apathy is. So I think people don't know how to communicate using words, because we've only been speaking this language for 100 years, and so
And
I think,
there's a whole element of nonverbal. I mean,
yeah,
we go in with our, our cousins, our friends, our buddies, and we can be having a conversation for 90 minutes and not exchange a word, even
yeah.
the way we interact. But maybe
Hmm.
you can speak to that a bit. Were you always a talker?
Or yeah, or you could be mad at somebody and not even say nothing, and they know you're mad at them, or or your woman, or your woman's mad at you just by the way she's walking around. Tlingit women are tough, and and so are the Tlingit men. That's a good one right there. That you brought that up, because that's where my mind goes to, what the things that you can say without saying anything, right? But words are always better, and because a lot of times nothing does get said, and then it just it goes away, or it gets buried, and then it comes back up. No, no, as a kid I was pretty shy, so I didn't say a lot, um, but
Do
yeah, I
you
mean,
do you consider yourself shy still, or no?
a little bit, I guess. Yeah, I'm not, I don't just talk to everybody in public. It's, I'm not that talkative sometimes, but when I'm around the people I know I'm comfortable with, yeah, I'm talkative. Um,
How about let's shift a little bit to your career, and I know there's an interest in sort of that. Are you able to pick and choose, and then how do you decide on what kind of where to go and what to do next, and with directors, and are you going to stay an actor, or what's your path here? What should we be expecting?
well, I mean, I've been, I, I do get to choose whether I want to do a role or not, and I've turned down roles before. Um, but there was time when like it's just hard to get an opportunity to even audition. So it started out like that, and I would audition for stuff that I was, whether I was right for it or not, it was an opportunity that presented itself at the time, and I would get like one audition every 4 months, and I would not, usually not get the job. So by the time I started booking jobs, I was like, I'd work on anything, but after working on a few jobs, and seeing you know, um, how they wanted to represent us, or other tribes, um, I guess you could say, then I was like, you know what, you know, I don't really feel comfortable with that, or I don't really want to do that. So I turned jobs down, or, or I would say, well, I'd do it if we could do this or change this up. And, usually like casting directors, I mean, not casting directors, but like producers and directors are usually pretty open to, collaborating with you. So I've got to influence some parts and stuff. But right now, yeah, I'm booking more movie roles and more stuff, with TV, and I'm getting into producing, so I'm producing some things, and that's kind of where I look at. I have a production company, and I'm trying to produce more stuff. as well as acting it and produce it, or just produce it, we're kind of moving into that. Eventually I would like to direct,
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. How did you? I was trying to remember that Magnificent Seven. He wasn't the director, but he was actor. Or just talked about Denzel Washington and how you ended up there, and is there a connection with him? I mean, he's just an icon and at another
Mhm.
level here. And how did you get there? And talk about
Well,
him a little bit and that.
yeah, that was that. Well, that job I auditioned for it. I got the audition, and so I studied for it real hard, and then I auditioned, and then I got a call back. What they call a callback audition is when they have you come back, and you get a callback means they picked a handful of actors to come in and read for the part again, and then I got a third callback when I met with the director and all of the producers, and I did an audition in front of them. And so it's like in a room, and there was like 10 people in there and me, and I auditioned and I read the part with the casting director and acted my part out. But then I had to go and ride horses and show them that I could ride a horse. And I didn't really even I didn't even know how to ride a horse, like I just hopped on it and hung on and didn't fall off. And they taught me once I got there, but yeah, that was kind of, that's how most of my roles have been, is through going in, you study, like I study acting classes, and then, you get a part for an audition and they give you about 2 or 3 days to study the lines. So I would memorize all my lines and the other actors' lines and go in there and try to just perform it out, and yeah, start booking movies and booking TV shows, and but Denzel, yeah, that was, like, it was kind of it was definitely a surreal moment. um but after, working with him for 5 months, by the time I started doing all my heavy scene work with him, because I was just mostly on set, but by the time I actually started doing scene work with him, I was already 2 3 months into the shoot, and at that point we had talked a bunch of times and hung out on set together, and he was cool, he was really nice, so he was helpful for sure. But I got to, Vincent D'Onofrio kind of took me under his wing, and he's, uh, one of the best character actors out there. So that was kind of cool, and just felt comfortable in that space, and yeah.
What advice do you have for folks that are home in Alaska and have an interest, and dreams? What's some advice for folks that were
An
in,
interest in
in
acting.
act? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, well, pursue it. There's plays going on up there. I don't know if they have the in Juneau. There's a theater there. In Anchorage, they do some theater plays. Fairbanks, I'm pretty sure they do some Alaska Performing Arts. Up in Anchorage, and also, um, if there's classes or something going on, it's fun. It's something you could participate in. Um, but also look at, opportunities online for auditions and stuff. Most of them are doing, um, they do, like, online submission, so you can self tape an audition and send it in. Um, but you got to work at it. You got to learn it, and so I would say, I like to look at acting books on Audible.com, or I like to look at interviews on YouTube with some of my favorite actors and listen to them talk about acting, or go to masterclass.com and look at some of the master classes that they give on acting and stuff like that. There's so many resources online, and so many books you can find online. I'm a nerd with books and stuff like that, so I'm always listening to an audio book while I do chores or do stuff, um, and just trying to learn about the craft. Look at the best in the game, and you can most certainly find interviews of them online talking about acting and talking about how they got their start. And everybody got a different. Most people have a different story, and how they got started. And some of them were started in theater plays, or some of them started in going to acting school, or some of them, found an audition somewhere that they walked into and was able to audition. And but it's definitely a grind, and it's possible. You just have to pursue it, and not get discouraged, and don't make it like something that consumes your entire being, because you have to have other things that keep you busy. For sure, as an artist, like most artists, you got to have a couple of things that aren't your art that you can do that can consume your time. So that's
So I'm gonna keep feeding questions and we'll keep moving through because they
yeah,
are
yeah.
true, but real two different ones I'll throw at you at the same time. You mentioned books. So do you have a specific book you recommend to people just on any realm, books to read? And then the other one is, do you get stopped in public? Do people pick you out of the crowd?
A book's just a book in general to read. Um, Man, well, I just finished. Well, actually, let's see. The Dude and the Zen Master by Jeff Bridges and Bernie Glassman is a great book. And that's a good book for acting, but it's also just a good book for life. I really like that book. The Dude and the Zen Master by Bernie Glassman and Jeff Bridges. Awesome book. I just finished one called A Life in the Movies by Irwin Winkler, who is a legendary producer in Hollywood, won several Oscars for producing movies. I really enjoyed that book. But what was the second part of the question?
Do you get stopped in public?
Oh, do I get stopped? Not really. I mean, I've been stopped in public. It's kind of a trip. It's happened in Seattle more than anywhere. Um, and yeah, up in like gathering of the nations and places like that, where there's lots of Native people. Um, but not so much in LA or anything like that.
Yeah. I remember actually at UCLA, it's been going on for years, the powwow there that the students put on, and we put it on a lot of years. And it was funny because you'd have the celebrities come, the movie stars, and actually the American Indians, all the dance groups would come up to grab the celebrities rather than the other way around to get the pictures taken. But the there's a question about that it's not cheap doing this. How do you survive financially while you're going through the training and taking the classes and going to LA? What how do you
Yeah.
pay your bills?
Well, when I started working on the oil rig, I would travel back and forth every 2 weeks, and then after I quit working on the rigs, I was actually delivering I was delivering food for a food delivery company, and so that would make enough to pay my rent and to pay for my acting classes, and have some money for food, and that was about it. Um, but it kept me busy. I got to go to class once or twice a week, and then you have homework and you study, and then I would make my own schedule so I could do auditions during the day, if I got any. And at that point, I started getting a lot more auditions because I already worked on a movie, and a couple of TV shows, and but I still needed to eat and pay rent and stuff. So I just deliver food and then drive around and deliver food and then go to the gym at night. Um, Late at night, I'd go to the gym and wake up the next day and do it again. So I'd work. I usually work nights, and then on the weekends, I would work, a morning and a night shift. Um, but yeah, I just constantly take little odd jobs, or I'd get a modeling job that would pay a few $100, and sometimes they'd fly me to New Mexico, or I went to New York. I went to Australia once. But even those, like I wasn't like an established public figure, so that they didn't pay very much. Like maybe $1,000 was maybe the most or something I would get, and a free trip out of the deal. And like $1,000 for a free trip and to do some modeling and some free clothes or something, I was like, cool, let's do it. And I'd get some cool pictures out of it. I'd use them to submit for more roles. And just kind of stuck with it, pursuing it and trying to get opportunities to get out there and audition for stuff and get seen, and just kind of started slowly getting more and more opportunities.
Total different one, but it's going into a different realm. But I know to be a whole person, you're comfortable fielding questions from anywhere, and it's
Yeah.
question which I kind of know some of the answer, but how many kids do you have, and what's your, just talk about being a dad for a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have one son, and my partner Kahara, she's my fiance. She's an amazing mother, like super amazing mother. And I love being a dad. It's like the best. Uh, yeah, it's a big responsibility for sure. And hopefully we have a bunch more kids. But I love it.
This one's high pressure. This next one's a high pressure question. Your favorite NBA player and your favorite NBA player and who you would compare yourself to in the NBA.
Who would I compare myself to in the NBA? Well, if I could, I can't because NBA players are too good. But my favorite player of all time is Kobe Bryant for sure. But yeah, I kind of like that's kind of like obviously he's like one of the best ever, so I can't compare myself. But I've kind of like studied his game. I like playing. I shoot a fadeaway jumper. Mid range. That's kind of my game. So my last gold medal game, I had a pretty good game. And I was doing a lot of Kobe type shots, turnaround fadeaways, stuff like that.
Good stuff. Another one that's a little more serious, and you can handle however you want, I guess. But let's talk a little bit about your own experience. There's a question: how many years of sobriety? But that's assuming you're sobriety. But just speak to substance use and alcohol, I guess, and your own personal experience for you as Martin as you come through life here.
I mean, I'm not really going to give anybody advice on like sobriety. I think it's something that's your own personal choice. But for me, I like being sober. I don't like drinking. It's not really my thing. But again, that's people's personal choice. If I told somebody you shouldn't drink, then they, tell me like they might not have a drinking problem, and maybe they don't, or maybe they do, and that's their own battle, But I think for now, as it pertains to kids, yeah, you definitely stay away from any substances or alcohol or anything like that, because your brain isn't even done developing until you're like 25. So if you get addicted to some substance or get addicted to alcohol before you're the age of 25, then chances are that you're going to be addicted to it your whole life. So it's definitely better to wait to make any choices to drink or whatever. But yeah, for me, like I like being focused. I like being clear-headed. Just helps me with my work and staying focused and like a lot of people we've have had family members in who've gone through their own battles with addiction and alcoholism and I think I don't know any Native people or most people in general that don't have family members who have struggled with that. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on and be careful with. Me personally, I think you can experience more out of life without it. Just because I've had so many amazing experiences traveling around the world and going to different places, and I guess that was one of my things growing up at home is one of the things that I looked at the village. I was seeing all the partying and stuff, and growing up going to parties and stuff. I wanted to get away from that, and but I realized like that stuff exists everywhere, So, like I said, you just have to be careful with it, and don't glorify it. Don't look at it. It's like something I see a lot of kids that glorify that, or they, it's kind of that thing you do when you're a teenager. You want to go out and party and have fun. But looking back on my life, I wish that I don't have any regrets. But I wasn't going all crazy either. I didn't get addicted to alcohol or anything like that. So
yeah, that's good. So here's another one. Pulling back up to the current kind of who's Jim Thorpe, and tell us a little bit about that and his if he had any influence on you prior to the project you're working on.
Yeah, I mean, of course, growing up, like that's one of our heroes. So I actually traveled through Oklahoma along like 10 years ago and took a picture with a statue of Jim Thorpe. Um, but he was not Olympian in 1912. Won the Olympics for the pentathlon and decathlon. Played professional football, basketball, baseball. He was just all around like badass athlete. And then later he was, after his professional career was done playing sports, he ended up working on movies, and he would round up a bunch of extras and stuff, and all the Indians that worked on all the old westerns and stuff. He's worked on over like 70 movies, so it's kind of cool to be able to do that now. I've been a part of that extras crew that's been on all the movies. There's kind of this crew of extras that goes around and works on a lot of Indian movies and TV shows and stuff. And a lot of the same guys. So I see some of them sometimes when I'm working on a show now.
Question just slid by there. It was about the best advice. Do you have the best advice you ever received? And are there pieces of advice that you still rely on now that sunk in over the years?
I think some of the best advice I've received probably was man, there's so much good advice I've gotten over the years. I can't pinpoint it, But some of I'd say some of it was just be a human being, be a human being. Human being really means something, and we're human beings. It's like we're human in spirit, and we have a spirit, and the being part of the human is the spirit. So I think that a lot of times we forget to have that being a part of the, we forget to be human, and we're just kind of like functioning as a person without a spirit sometimes. That's like those, like some of the elders I grew up with told me, like, not to get too involved with alcohol because it eats your spirit, and it'll make it so that your spirit can't see your body, and you won't have that guidance. So that was kind of always like a fear of drinking alcohol for me. So I didn't want to be disconnected from my spirit. But in today's world, you don't need substances to do that for you. You got the internet and Twitter and stuff that kind of like, people that get too passionate about things they don't know nothing about, or they do know something about it, or they knew too much, or they don't know enough. In any case, I don't think that there's anything that we should get attached to that makes us hate other people. And so I think remembering to be human, and treat each other with respect. That's kind of one of the best teachings I've had. Is learn, treat people with respect and kindness. And life is pretty simple if you do that.
On that, as far as being human, being whole, being a full human being, I think so. A lot of our indigenous languages, the translation, it is being a real person. And
yeah,
what do you have to say to the young folks? When I was a kid, we had the dance group, but there was a certain age there that it just wasn't as much the thing, and some quite a few of us strayed away from the dance group come middle school and high school, and it's a different day now. There's a lot more pride in the culture and a lot more opportunity with scholarships and programs.
Mm-hmm.
What's your message to the young people as it relates to their culture, their language, and everything?
Yeah, I would just say embrace it. Embrace it, and let's see. Promote each of their lives. Oh, I'm just now seeing all these questions on here. No, I would say embrace embrace your culture, because it's something that you see is coming back strong, but it's also it's connected to your homeland. Yeah, I think that a lot of kids grow up and they see the problems at home, but they also grow up learning the culture and being a part of it. That the mistake that they make sometimes is that they group it all into one. And when they say, I need to get away from the problems, they are also believing that they need to get away from the culture, or they need to get away from their community. And I think that you have to take a look at everything in life and separate the good things from the bad things, and separate and look at them and be able to make that distinction between the two, and say, like, take the best and leave the rest. What's good in your life, hold on to that. What's not good, don't hold on to that. And I think the culture is something that a lot of times people find their way back to it later in life, because they try to get away from everything, and then they become older and they find their way back to the culture. They get in a canoe, or they find their way into the dance group or whatever it is, and then they find healing, that they've been needing for so long. And that's what our culture has. It has healing. It has healing properties. It has our ways of taking care of each other. So there's a lot in the culture that's very valuable that we need to hold on to and look at and say, this is something that I can hold on to and I can help it evolve.
Here's a good follow-up on that one from your sister Star. It's you had your firstborn just recently, but you're the younger. You've got siblings ahead of you who have kids. But speak to your Uncle Martin. Who is Uncle Martin, and what are your nephews? What's your role with them and your nieces and nephews?
Yeah, I mean, they're
Oh, we lost your sound there. I don't know if it's everybody, but I lost your sound. Yeah, we got the thing on here. No sound coming from you. Can folks hear me? And it's just
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can hear you.
okay. So it's just your sound, Martin. Something. Your mic is still hot, but something dropped.
How's that?
There you go. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Uncle Martin. Yeah, I mean, like, what can I say? I love being an uncle. Well, I think I don't know what to say. I just like I love every opportunity I get to hang out with my nephews is awesome, and I miss hanging out with them all the time. So.
So what should we expect? And I know your brother. What would your brother Chris be asking you right now? He is the movie buff, and he can talk circles around all of us about the industry and all this.
That's a good question. I got to work at Universal Studios recently on a show, and just walking around looking at all the old buildings and stuff. I think he would really enjoy that. Looking at the different movie sets, and you see like these huge. It looks like they can make it look like a whole entire street, but it's just a couple of false front buildings. Yeah, the movie stuff is kind of a trip. I mean, let's see here.
How would you characterize the role of, or just the place of American Indians, Alaska Natives, Indigenous people right now in Hollywood? I mean, is it you know, the media, I guess. How what's your assessment of our place? Are we respected as you know as we should be, or are we represented as we should be, or what kind of future should we be working towards there with Hollywood?
That's a good question. Really, that's a really good question. I don't think there's enough stories about Alaska. And we need more, you know, I would love to see more people getting into the arts and acting, or it doesn't even have to be acting, it could be filmmaking. But to me, storytelling is something it's a part of our culture, it's a part of our tradition. And I think that, you know, everything that we do, we look at how to evolve that aspect of our culture. And so, you know, we're finding new ways to innovate, finding new ways to become, you know, to build economically. But I think that, you know, storytelling is something that needs to evolve with the times we're in. And I think that technology is something that we've always adopted as it was readily available. So to me, you know, storytelling is, you know, I'm living out a part of my culture, you could say, through storytelling by being an actor. But I would like to see more stories. You know, I'm looking at stories that I could potentially try to develop one day in Hollywood. But there's, you know, I would like to see more developed, you know, with the Alaskan stuff, for sure.
Just a comment on the language, the Tlingit language and learning. There's, you know, it's a big effort right now to try to really multiply the teachers and the language and the speakers. And that was, you know, that was the powerful moment in the Magnificent Seven that a lot of us remember. Is it something that comes easy for you to learn the Tlingit language and use it, or is it a challenge, or what's?
I mean, I would say it's definitely a challenge just because I'm not at home and I'm not interacting with anybody who's speaking it on a daily basis or anything like that. But it's not hard for me to say the words when I learn them, and it's not hard for me to remember them. It's hard for me to, I guess, find time to get online and learn it, or, you know, I guess I don't have the access I'd like, you know, being all the way down here.
Here's another good one on Martin. So obviously you're not bumping into a lot of folks from home, but when you're out there, what do you feel and what do you say when people ask, where are you from? Who are you? You know, to the people down there, what do you feel, and what do you say about home and who you are, and what do you feel, more importantly, when you're doing that?
If I actually have that conversation with people, yeah, I just think about home, you know, Yakutat. And usually they, you know, like you know, sometimes they think they have a idea of what Alaska could be, but they usually you say, oh, that's cool. I went on a cruise there before, you know. I'm like, cool, you didn't see anything, you know. But yeah, I mean, you know, just think about home. I always feel like, you know, I feel Alaskan. I feel like I'm connected to home, even though I haven't really lived up there in a long time. I still identify as being from Alaska and being Alaskan. But that's, you know, that's about it.
What should the rest of the world know? What do they need to know about Alaska Natives?
That's a good question. What do they need to know about Alaska Natives? I guess just, you know whose land you're on when you travel there, you know. And that's, you know, I don't know what else. What are you going to do with that information other than that, you know? I kind of like to research the land that I'm on, wherever I'm at, you know, learn a little bit about the history there. There's a lot. Alaska has a rich history, so, you know, it's really interesting too. And so I think if you travel to Alaska and wherever you're at, learn about the history of that place, and it'll enhance your experience there, you know, and try to interact with some people, and that we're not a static people. We're not, you know, I guess a stereotype or anything. You know, we're a modern day people and people, you know, so just like everybody else, man, you know.
So we're coming up on our budgeted time, and I know Anthony's going to come in and share in a little bit to wind this down. You know, what are some of your hopes and dreams or thoughts, I guess, for us as a people, but us as a people, maybe the future, you know, 10, 20 years out, as far as Alaska Natives and Hollywood, Alaska Natives and the media or storytelling? What are you predicting down the road for us? Are you going to be kind of just as one-off for a while? Are we hoping for a
I hope not.
wave?
I hope not. I think that, you know, if there's anybody out there watching or anybody that has interest in the arts or acting or any of that, then you should try to pursue it. Um, if you feel like you can do it, definitely try to pursue it. Um, and I think I would like to see more stories developed of Alaska Natives. Obviously, there hasn't been, you know, whether it's a historical piece or a modern day piece. It'd be an interesting story to tell. I just got to, you know, figure out the right one. And I think there's a lot of movies. Like, I think there's a movie called On the Ice a few years ago that took place up in Barrow. That was pretty good. It was a modern day Newpack story, and it was like a thriller, you know. But then you see other movies where I can't think of the names of them, but they take place in Alaska, and or they try to put native people in them, and they just miss the mark, you know. So we definitely have work to do in Hollywood in terms of like consulting with people wherever they're shooting or the tribes they're shooting. So that's kind of one thing that we're seeing in Hollywood is a lot of people that are developing native stories are having consultants on their production team to get the story right or to get the culture part aspect right. But I, you know, like to me, that's just a given. That's a necessary given. I think, you know, I would just like to see more stories develop that have a high production value, that make it look possible for us to make good stuff. You know, like I see, there's a lot of native films out there that get made, but a lot of times they don't have the big enough budget, so they don't have the time to shoot, or they don't have the experience people working on the sets that can set up a set fast enough that they can have time to act the scenes enough times, get enough takes that they need to get the right take, and then set up the next scene. It takes a real skilled crew to be able to set up really fast, move to the next scene, set up the next scene really fast, and have the maximum amount of time for the actors to act and the director to work, to develop a really good, believable product that has really good acting, really good lighting, really good sound, really good high production value. I think when we get to that level, and I've worked on productions that are, you know, $100 million budgets, and I've worked on ones that are $300,000 budgets, and so you see different types of film, different levels, and the different levels of expertise that goes into it. And when you're at that really high level, you see things like, oh man, this is why the movie's so good, you know, because they have somebody who can light these people, these actors right, so they can dramatize the scene more. Or you can have you know, the director who knows how to guide the cast towards to the right level of emotion that they need to be at to express this scene as best as they could, you know. So I think if we have that high level production, we're going to have really good product, you know, really good stuff that can appeal to a mainstream audience, because it's definitely interesting enough. So I would like to see that, you know, I would like to see more productions that have the opportunity to be great. And like we're working on some of those, you know, and working on that, you know, like the Jim Thorpe project, working with, you know, some very, very amazing filmmakers and writers, people that who have a proven track record in Hollywood, with from writing scripts to developing them to to making movies, to getting them sold to a market, all of that stuff. It's really a process. So I would just like to see, rather than see expensive art pieces, I want to see big commercial projects, commercial value projects. So that's kind of like what I want to do with my production company too, in developing projects that have a chance to sell to a foreign market, or they have a chance to sell to, have a good domestic run, and be seen in movie theaters and things like that. And not just rely on films that have to raise a certain amount to get developed, to get made, to get to go to a film festival, and then to hopefully get bought. Now I want to develop films that we can build a budget for, and even sell them to at a market like American Film Market or something, and then have those films be bought by a production company or a studio that funds the movie, and they buy the story, and then they develop it themselves, and then all of a sudden you can make something that gets put into the mainstream, uh, theatrical run and stuff like that, or streaming services or what have you. But it's kind of getting to that level. I want to see native stories be told at that high level. And I think
Earlier,
I think
you made reference to riding a horse for the, and it just made me think of an old Steven Seagal movie. I think was filmed in Alaska, and there was a moment when a gal hopped on the horse, and they made some comment, "Can you ride?" And she's, "Of course, I'm Native American." And
yeah, on Deadly, was it on Deadly Ground?
Yeah. But we're all just kind of curious about, when you get onto this production and possibly potential director level, what's, kind of stories are you going to be telling? And then what should we expect? Is there a genre or an area where you're looking, where you're shopping to get into a role that's in, a drama or a comedy or an action, or, kind of where are you going next?
Man, that's a good one. There's so many stories to develop. I shoot, can't even think of how many there's. Like automatically, a lot of times people want to think about like, oh man, our history is so beautiful, our artwork is so beautiful. We could tell us something about the ancestors or something. That'd be cool. I would love to do that. But it would really have to be a really high production value to be able to do it properly. To have the sets built, to have the wardrobe, to have everything. Period pieces are really expensive. But I think there's so much that to look at right now, and we have a really diverse people in our culture. It stretches across all of Southeast Alaska. So there's a lot of different stories that are in there. But you could use any theme, that's a good question. I have to think about that. Maybe develop something.
We're going to get the hook here. So my kind of last two questions to you, and then Anthony will come on and help wind this down, is, do you have anything else to share? That's the big just catch-all. Anything else to share? And then where should people follow you? I know we've had some conversation about social in the past, but where if people want to follow you, is there a spot we should be going to keep tabs on?
You could go on imdb.com, and like that has all the movies. Like if you want to go look at actors' profiles on imdb.com, you can look at all the movies they did. It shows all their filmography, or upcoming projects. So my imdb.com has like a list of my upcoming projects. Some of them don't say when they're going to be released because I don't know when they're going to be released. Like I did a movie called The Last Manhunt. I don't know when that's coming out. It's been submitted to some film festivals. The Chickasaw Rancher, I did that movie. I don't know when it's coming out. The Liberator, which drops tomorrow on Netflix. And then FBI's Most Wanted was my last one that came out on CBS. So if you can get the CBS app, and download FBI's Most Wanted. I think it was like episode 7 or 8. It's called Titled Ghosts. I was in that one. I did another show called Rutherford Falls. It's going to be coming out sometime next year on Peacock TV. The Ice Road. I did a movie this spring with Liam Neeson, and that one's going to be out sometime next year. I'm not sure when. Going to be doing a movie with Tom Hardy sometime in the near future, so that's pretty exciting. Yeah, and the Jim Thorpe project, we're going to be working on that next year, hopefully. And you know, that one's just about finding the right timing for getting the right director, and then getting finding the right time to shoot it. The one of the producers, Todd Black, is a he's got like 4 movies that he's working on right now before we can get to that one. He's doing a movie with Denzel Washington and Michael B. Jordan right now, so busy guy. But it's cool to be able to work with, you know, the people that are at that level, and yeah, I'd just say look at my projects coming out if you can find them online. But social media and stuff, you know, like I have my Instagram and I have a Facebook page. I'll never post on them very much. I'm not, you know, like I got a lot of stuff going on right now with the scripts and studying and trying to be good at my job. You know, I try to eliminate as much distraction as I can. I watched that show called Social Dilemma on Netflix, and it kind of blew my mind. And I haven't been on social media as much since. So if you get a chance, watch Social Dilemma on Netflix. It's kind of a trip.
Yeah,
yeah,
after we watch The Liberator tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, we definitely, you know, like I said earlier, you are us, we are you, and then we appreciate you making the time for us, and we know you usually make your way back the best you can for celebration. We'll hope to see you when we've got celebration happening in real life again, and
Yeah.
and invite Anthony on to close this out. Our CEO, Anthony, come on back in, and I'll zip my lip, and I'm wishing you good health and safety, and you know, offering love to all your family there down in Arizona and back home in Yakutat. So you just take care of yourself, Martin.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Sheesh, Anabasi, Martin. So good that you spend so much time with us today, and your willingness to spend time with us last week as well. I think, you know, this 90 minutes went quick.
Yeah. Wow, this is already 90 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you spent close to 90 minutes with us last week, and your ability to tell your story and your path and your roadmap and kind of what drives you is motivating. I think I have over 3 pages of notes from some of the quotes that you utilize. You get it.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're modest. You have humility. I had no idea that you were working on so many of those films. You know, you aren't out there touting yourself. You're just putting in the hard work, and I really respect that. And as you get into directing, I think the natural component of directing is using that directing skill set to invest in our youth. You're already doing it with your nephews and your nieces and other youth in your life, but I would just urge you and everybody else to, you know, find youth to invest in, and just do it as often as you can. And I know you're on that path. Good cheese.
I appreciate the time, and you know, you guys, everybody that tuned in and listened in, and you know, I appreciate all the support coming from home, and you know, that's one of my most motivating things is you know, for me, being where I'm at is always going to be a sacrifice when I'm not at home, because you know, I'm trying to do some things that haven't ever been done before, and it's challenging, but you know, I always think about home, and I always think about when the day comes, I'll be able to, you know, make some space at home and move home for a little bit, or full time even would be amazing.
That'd be great.
It's hard. It's hard when you got to be on the road and working and stuff, but you know, we're making progress, and you know, hard work.
Good cheese. Well, thank you. I'm going to end with just a quick screen share. I think this is something that really ties into what we do at Sealaska on a daily basis. We've talked a lot about our businesses lately and the focus on our businesses and the focus on ocean health. But at the end of the day, the only reason we focus on business success is because our business success leads to our community success. And for this whole session, I want to thank our communications team, Dixie, Matt, Sasha, Tasha, Amy, for doing such a great job putting this together. Cheese for putting this picture on the screen for me. When I get to my next slide, this is what gives me pride and respect. I have pride and respect from being from Yakutat, living under Wasay Tasha, Mount St. Elias. I have pride and respect that people from Yakutat are doing great things. I have pride and respect that my brother BJ is there, commercial fishing, living off the land, like so many of our ancestors have and so many of our current people are doing. And the one thing I want to share is our own leadership roadmap. And I want to tie it to what Martin has talked about, because Martin just gave us his roadmap. Martin gave us his roadmap to success. And I said at the beginning, we highlighted him because we know his roadmap ties to our roadmap. I'll get to kind of the crux of my presentation, and because we're near the end. But the reality of our leadership roadmap starts with pride and respect. And this is the roadmap that we are working on to build educational and career success for our people, to help our people achieve their full potential. And last year, when we rededicated ourselves to this effort, we knew it all started with building pride and respect. And Martin said it himself, if he could give advice to his 9-year-old, 10-year-old self, it was believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, if you have pride and respect from where you come from your homelands, from your ancestors, that's the starting point to investing in yourself. That's the starting point to setting goals. It's the starting point to working hard. It's the starting point to believing that you have a right to achieve success. And this is not Sealaska's sole role. Sealaska is one of many participants, aunts, uncles, grandparents, family, community. Those are the first line of defense in building pride and respect in our youth. We want to help foster that and grow that. Every single one of us can do with believing in ourselves more. And when we have more belief in ourselves, when we have more pride and respect, we stay on the path just as Martin has. And as we stay on this path, we grow our leaders. Martin is a great example of that. Martin is on this path. And if we think of this, we call it a flywheel. If we go through this process, we have pride and respect in who we are. We reach a level of success. We build our leadership skills. And we hit a point where we can feel comfortable that we built success, just as Martin can right now, but he's not stopping. He's building on that success and experience. He's still reading. He's still studying other actors. He's willing to take another loop around this flywheel. He's going to believe in himself that he can be the next Denzel Washington. That belief is going to drive him to continue to invest in his learning and his understanding of his craft. And he's going to take another loop on this flywheel. He's going to reach a greater level of success. He's going to build his leadership skills, and he's going to be an example of how to do this for all of us. We're on the beginning of this journey with so many of you. We hope you enjoyed this experience. We have more to come. I believe there's a survey that we'd like everybody to fill out. It'd be great if you have the time to do that. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what we should change. We're looking to improve in this medium. And I just want to say thank you for joining us today. Guna Chish, have a great day.